Hey, welcome back to Chumming with the Spirits. I am OG. I am with Parachum, the man, the myth, the legend, and the reason we're all here.
Orale.
We got JD, the guy that kind of translates for me and me.
The liaison between the jock and the nerd.
Not a special guest anymore.
He's our AI translator.
More like a fixture to our podcast. We have the one and the only mentor, Jason.
So what are we going to talk about today, JD?
We're going to talk about alien abductions, some of the bigger cases, maybe some of your personal experiences.
Whoa. Didn't think about that.
Well, I mean, when we get into time slips and that, because what I find fascinating about time slips, you don't know it happens until it's after. You may not even realize it ever happened until somebody goes, hey, and then you go, well, you know what? We covered 30 miles in like 5 minutes. What? You thought it was 5 minutes. It could have been an hour and a half.
That's real. And you guys, I think, have a little bit of experience of possibly.
You guys haven't talked about that before?
I think
I don't know. Maybe just touched on it, but I don't think
we touched on it because he doesn't remember
story.
a lot after that.
So why don't we elaborate? You're a pretty good storyteller.
So we were in the car. This was pre-COVID, so
6 years ago.
it was probably 2019, 2018. And we were coming back from Big Rip Brewing Company. And we had only had a few beers. Larry was driving. He
had 0 beers. 0 beers.
It was, you can't prove if he had a lot of beers. Lots of beers.
No.
They do have some really great beers.
Not if you were driving. You're more responsible than that. I don't believe it.
Anyways, we like to take the back roads home, and we did that. And we weren't really on a back road. It was Metropolitan Avenue in KCK, but in a rural part through Turner where there's no trees along or no houses along the road there. And I know that area really well. Not only do I live close to there in Merriam, I used to work in Turner a lot, surveying gas lines. But I know that road. I know pretty much every road in Wyandotte County and Johnson County. This was after midnight, around midnight, probably. I mean, we were coming back from Big Rip, which closes at 11, I think, at that time. I don't even remember. It was like
11:45 or so.
And we were just. I was looking out the passenger side window, and I don't even remember what we were talking about.
But
you were talking about the school.
Yeah, because so there was. It was a school building. It had been a school building in the past, but it was a community building at this time on Metropolitan, just east of 55th Street. And we were looking at, and they have fields there. And I think I used to work with somebody that lived right next to that building. And I pointed out, and I was talking about in the neighborhood behind that school, down at the end of a dead-end road in a field was a monument.
Yeah.
There was just a monument randomly out there on the other side of a fence that nobody took care of. And it wasn't a grave, but there was a monument out there. I haven't been back there since then, but that's what we were talking about.
Well, can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to do my parachum. What kind of monument was it?
I don't remember.
How do you know about it?
This monument.
I used to work in those neighborhoods all the time.
So
I would have been in everybody's yard.
Okay.
With that job. So
Okay.
I was on
You're a
every
meter
street.
reader.
No, I was surveying underground gas lines.
Okay.
But anyways, I remember it being on the other side of a barbed wire fence at the dead end road in a field. And it was only like 5 feet.
That's awkward.
It did have stuff on it. I just can't remember off the top of my head what it was for. But it wasn't a gravestone. Anyways, we were talking about that, and we were right next to that former school building. And then the next thing,
you told me to look.
I was like, "What?" We were next to the back parking lot of what used to be Turner High School. And I know that people watching might not know these schools, but it is, in fact, the parking lot we were next to. If people want to look it up, which wasn't far from where we were, but there were lots of things we should have passed.
Yeah, because you
to
kept telling
get
me
to those points.
Once I passed
to that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just we would have passed a daycare that's right there on the corner. We would have went through a stoplight that was, then the intersection was lit up, and there was a church there with a 150, 200 foot cross, like you see, like in the Ozarks on the mountain.
Well, that's pretty cool.
We don't remember passing any of those things.
He's like,
We're next. It was maybe a mile.
Is it because you
distance-wise.
think it's because you guys were so?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I was paying.
that's the
pretty
word I
close
was
attention.
looking for, Jay.
Because we would have went through the intersection, which was a stoplight, not a stop sign,
And I didn't stop.
and he didn't stop. I don't even remember seeing the color
down
of it. No, it was, we were there next to this what used to be a school, and then we were close to a mile down the road, past all of this stuff, next to a parking lot, and we're still going about the same speed, and it seemed like maybe 5 to 10 minutes had passed, because we noted it. We were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, he's like, you'll see because the turn's coming up down the hill once you pass the cross and go through the stop sign.
Because I didn't realize at that point yet that we had passed those. I was telling him where to turn, because we were going to turn at that light. So I was telling him, we're going to turn at this light up here, and then I noticed we were by the wrong parking lot, and then we were like, well, because then there's a stop sign down at the bottom of the hill that we got to. So in the moment, I was telling him to turn at the stop sign that we had already passed.
but didn't pass.
Or the stoplight that we had already passed.
This is creepier than the stick story.
Well, this is the one Larry hinted at this one, and that's what made me think of like lost time. It's common for people to self hypnotize themselves driving familiar routes. You kind of go on autopilot.
You do.
I'd never been down that road before.
That's the deal. Two people at the same time, that gets very interesting when you start losing. That's time.
Was it just you two?
Yeah. I was telling him about the monument, so I was talking. So we were distracted in a sense that we were talking about that monument, but we did not go through that intersection because it's really lit up and the stoplights, and then there's that church with the huge cross. We definitely didn't go past that.
Yeah, because the moment that he was telling me, hey, you're going to turn at the stoplight or next to the big cross in the church, we were coming down the hill and the power plant was on the left, and you're like, well, we shouldn't be there.
It was a transformer station, but yeah, same.
So how many miles did you miss?
About a mile.
About a mile.
Okay.
And you were driving about how fast?
That was about 35, 40 miles an hour.
It was probably less. It was
Yeah.
probably 30 to 35.
Yeah.
So you're talking you lost at least 2 to 3 minutes of your time.
No, because it was like 10 minutes.
When we realized that we had, and because, we've heard of this stuff before, it seemed like, because, who sits there and watches the clock?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, they know how to hit
It seemed
the
like
button
it
back
was
too.
10 minutes later
Yeah.
than it had been when we realized it and we looked at the time.
So you lost time.
I think so.
But
It felt
just
like it.
because 10 minutes shouldn't have been equivalent to what you should have missed like 2 or
Even
3.
if we just didn't realize that we went that far, if we were just going the speed we were going, it would have only taken a couple minutes,
So
not 10 minutes.
what were you doing beforehand besides drinking, if you were drinking, or doing drugs? And the second thing is, what did you
guys check each other for
But
front marks?
what was your reason being out there? Is what I'm saying.
I was taking him home.
Yeah, we were coming home from Big Rip,
What?
the mug,
Oh.
and which is in North KC, but we got off
Yeah.
the highway early, and we just wanted to go. We like to go down random roads and just to see what was out there. We had a couple drinks, but we weren't anywhere near.
But you weren't sky watching or
No.
investigating. That's what I was trying to get to.
It may have been a Big Rip for like podcast reasons or other reasons. Paranormal. I used to take meetings and stuff there and paranormal stuff, and so that's probably what we were doing there.
And we're not saying any of this is paranormal or lost of time. We're just saying coincidentally, you guys lost a section. You thought 10 minutes. Should have only been 3 minutes. It's
The
different.
time thing is very subjective because we don't know exactly because
It's
we
relative?
weren't watching the clock
You weren't
and we
paying
didn't have anything recording. But we definitely didn't drive past those monuments, like the things that we should have been looking
Should have
for.
seen.
I'll be honest, the next time we drove down that road, which would have been like the second time for me to take you home, I made sure to look for that cross.
Well, because we tried to
And
get
there
a
was no
couple
way
times.
you would have missed it.
There's no way. It lights up. So it's not just a 150 to 200 foot
So
cross.
this is
it's
kinda-
illuminated.
This is kind of freaky. Well, let me ask you, and then I'll ask you the same thing, Jason. What happened? What do you think happened? Why did you miss all of that?
And do you have any triangle marks on your body that? Yeah.
I've had that since I was born. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, there's a million different possible. Like Jason would say,
What's the most
anything's
probable?
possible.
What's the most
Anything's
probable?
probable.
Just being distracted.
No, I don't think it was.
That's
a
what's the
simple
odd
case.
thing is for both people to miss that light. And
I would have gone through the light illegally.
Yeah, you would have, ran a red light and you just admitted to it on national podcast. But
You can admit to anything. You can do anything on camera.
it's
The
actually,
viewer has to prove that you actually did it. It wasn't acting.
Yeah, and you weren't full.
But what
BS.
this to me is a great segue into you guys have personally experienced something that you can't really correlate because I don't think most people I get into the scientific side of alien abductions when they start saying stuff like you said you're not watching the clock. To pick up that you lost time is really hard other than your mind saying hey something shifted something's not
Something
quite
missed.
yeah. So when people are talking about that and they're like well I don't know, they're being honest, they don't know how much time was gone because it's really hard to tell that.
But we're only talking a few minutes. I mean, that would have been like one of the quickest on record, right? What do
No,
you,
not necessarily.
What do you
No.
think, Jason?
Well, so as far as
Okay, elaborate
time
on
goes, when it comes to, let's just say for argument's sake, this isn't necessarily what I think happened, but let's just say for argument's sake, because we're talking about it, that we were abducted. There are stories where full vehicles get abducted and they just disappear from where they're at and show up somewhere else. Let's just say, for example, that's what happened to us. Time in those moments can even run backwards, or you could be picked up one place and then 100 miles away be dropped off and it's still the same time, but you were in that space being abducted for 5 hours.
So
their time might not be the same time as ours, or they can just like dump you back in even in a past time. There's missing time, but there's also you got somewhere 5 hours before you were supposed to get there.
So do you have an answer? What happened?
how
What
would
do
he
you
have an
think
answer?
Uh,
I don't know what his thought was. What does Jason think happened?
I mean,
Or are you just dismissing and say that was just a
no,
a freak thing?
as far as from all the research I've ever done, there are markers of different things that line up for different instances.
Okay.
And I'd say that there are very much similarities to alien abduction stories, but I don't have any reason to think that other than there are details that line up with other people's stories, because we don't have anything where
No memory of it.
we don't have any thought
No
that we saw a light or this or maybe we could all go get hypnotic regressions for different parts of our lives, and that's something that we could do.
Absolutely.
Somebody's
I
brought that up before.
I want to do that. I do. But I want someone to go with me because I
do
want
have-
that filmed.
I do have another time in my life where I have missing time that I've thought about it, but also another part of me doesn't. I have a hard time with releasing control of my cognitive self. Like when I get drunk, but usually still I'm in mental control unless it just gets really bad.
No, you are.
But when it comes to like
I've
the
seen
one
that.
reason I've never experimented more with like hallucinogens and stuff is because I feel like the act of losing control would freak me out.
Yeah.
The same is with hypnotic regression tree, but I would consider it. There's another time when I was probably around between 12 to 14. I was in my grandparents' basement. I was by myself. I was sitting on a couch, had the TV on, and I got up to go flick on the light across the room. I woke up sometime later on the floor with rug burns all over myself. So maybe I had a seizure. One-off seizures can happen, but I don't have a history of them. I never had them again, or never had them previous. But it seemed like 30 to 45 minutes had passed in that time, which is a long time for seizure. Even if, but yeah, that's the other time where I have, other than blacking out from drinking, those are the two times where I kind of feel like I have missing time. I don't know what happened.
So what's your conclusion on what happened?
I don't know.
Come on.
I can't give you.
You go in the outfield in the parking lot. You have to have a conclusion. Your mind's telling you something. If it's just us and no camera, what would you say?
His mind's telling him yes.
I think this is what happened.
Body's telling him no.
It could have been. We could have driven through a portal. Who knows?
Is that what you lean toward? And I'm asking because I really want to know.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's.
I'm not doing it for this. I want to know.
It's hard to lean towards.
Yeah, we
something
popped up into this timeline where we met you guys.
Yeah.
So
quantum leaping it.
I'll preface your question with another story. So I don't think I've ever told anybody this because I never really thought about it until just now.
Well, before we do that, your conclusion of what happened. Because I know you like to stay in control of this, but I want to know. I want to put something out there.
I don't like to put conclusions on things.
What would you lean to? If it was someone else besides Jason, what would you tell that person?
I'll say very simply, we could have just blinked from one spot to the next. Nothing else may have been controlling it. It could have been like an anomalous moment where we transported ourselves to the other spot.
Okay, I like that. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, in the famous words of OG, cool story, bro. But no, I mean, it's one of those weird things where it's two of you having the same event. And like I said, I'm not saying it was an abduction.
That doesn't make it a story when that happens.
No, you have collaboration.
Yeah,
if something happened, you just don't know what. I mean,
I do feel like Larry is glad I've started coming on the show to talk about the stories he's told that you guys never believed on before.
Absolutely.
Well, it does help him out a little bit.
It does give him some credibility.
Some, yeah.
Some. So let's hear what you have to say.
You got to move a little bit closer, or else you're going to be squeaky. So when I was at KU, my first year of college, I didn't want to be there. I worked at Blockbuster in Lawrence. No, I'm sorry. This was when I was in Manhattan.
Even worse.
I wasn't working in Manhattan, but I was coming home for the weekend, I believe. And the only way to get to Paola, the fastest way to get to Paola was 70, right? 70 to 35. Sure. I remember just outside of Topeka, it felt like I may have fallen asleep. The next thing I remembered was opening my eyes and I was in my mom's parking lot in Paola, or not parking lot, driveway in Paola.
Were you drinking?
No.
Just really tired?
I don't know. It seemed like I got there a lot faster than I should have because it had only been like an hour since the last minute that I remember. But I don't know if it was, maybe I did fall asleep and my subconscious just took control, like Jesus took control of the wheel.
There is self-hypnosis where you go into a trance and your body actually knows where it's going.
Absolutely.
I've seen you drive for miles when you seem to be asleep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it may not have been paranormal. I'm just you guys are assholes.
No. He's on the set. Why am I?
It's true though.
I'm just laughing.
You guys don't laugh.
It's the
I thought you were going to say I fell asleep and I was at a rest stop in some glory hole. I thought this is going to be a great
that's
story.
another funny story. Yeah. So he went camping on July 4th weekend a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's not a glory horse story.
Down in
I was just playing around. This is PG-13.
This was lost time though too.
This is kind of lost time. So they were camping down.
He's up on the mushrooms.
Who's they?
Him,
me, and a bunch of guys, and Larry came down to hang out.
Okay.
And I didn't want to sleep down in Lacine camping, so I drove back each night to sleep in my bed. One night, I came back and I stopped at a gas station to use the restroom. Quick Trip. And I fell asleep on the toilet in Quick Trip. And the next thing, it had been like an hour and a half because I looked at my watch when the guy woke me up. I hear banging on the stall. I'm like, dude, you okay? And I was like, I'm good. So I had fallen asleep for like an hour and a half on the toilet in Quick Trip.
I did that.
They were probably thinking you died. They're like, we got a large man in the bathroom. We're gonna have to pull out.
No, I'm pretty sure they could hear me.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Is this one in better shape?
A little bit.
Okay, I didn't know if this was back in your.
This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
This was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
this was before your CPAP machine too.
Yeah. So
4 years ago.
Interesting story.
Yeah, this is pretty funny though.
As far as the K-State to Paola thing, I don't know. I may have fallen asleep.
That's crazy.
Because I don't remember going through.
And how you got there. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's scary, man.
It is scary. But maybe I was abducted.
Maybe it was just aliens taking the wheel.
Maybe we should go to church Sunday and pray and thank him.
Well, I don't want to catch fire.
Well, I'll have a fire extinguisher.
That's what the holy water's for.
That's right. Wow, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, it's a cool story. It's not cool.
And I'll be honest,
story, bro. He literally was gonna say it. But no, it's and the reason why I kind of brought that up is it's a segue into what we're going to talk next.
You're right.
But people don't realize this happens more often than not. And it's not saying it's paranormal or it's alien abduction, or it is something that happens to more people than they realize.
And he's talking about lost time, not falling asleep in Quick Trip bathrooms.
Okay,
I was talking about both.
My honeymoon, I blacked out. Let's be honest with you, I didn't want to go.
It is very similar. There is one difference. That is a big difference than a lot of when it comes to alien abduction type stories. When it comes to lost time and stuff, it is more often than not, probably 85-90% of the time, the people don't talk about it afterwards until maybe years later. They might think about it, but they really don't talk about it. And it's not just because Larry and I are into paranormal things that makes it different that we were able to talk about it. I've read and heard thousands of different abduction scenarios and stories from people. And there is a thread that it does also cross over into some other paranormal stories, like some Bigfoot stories and was some evil things too. That something in the phenomenon forces the people not to talk about it because they don't want to be found out, maybe. But that is different. Larry and I realized it right away, and we talked about it immediately.
It's not blinking anymore.
We're still recording.
Okay.
5 minutes in.
Sorry.
Well, but go ahead, Dave.
No, and we kind of talked about it a little bit last night, guys. If you're not a person that's into the paranormal, does investigations and stuff like that, and something traumatic like losing time, or your stick freaking story still fucks me up, but you see shit like that, and you don't. Who do you tell? I mean, seriously, because most people don't do what you do, what you guys have done.
That's fair.
1,000 times more than what me and JD has ever done. Who do you tell?
Together.
All you have is each other to tell. But people like me, is when something happened to me in my younger childhood, and JD, you don't have someone to tell. So that's why it takes years for that to come out.
Well, there is the stigma aspect to it, for sure, but I was specifically referencing when multiple people experience it at the same time. They'll even drive home and have a normal conversation.
And not say a word.
And just...
like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened.
That would be...
And they'll even, like, maybe 3 days later, they're like, why didn't we talk about it?
But they're aware of what happened, though, is what you're saying.
They're aware of what happened. They just don't discuss it after.
That's kind of nutty.
I look at it as, like, if I'm an alien, and you're like, okay, we abduct 2 dudes in a car. Okay, we got to put them back.
because they abducted the wrong two dudes.
Yeah, it was like, well, okay, this was not the two guys we really wanted, and they're like, oh, that's close enough, and that like they don't know what street corner. I'm like,
I'd play jokes. I'd like switch their underwear and
exactly. And it's
So would you do that? I mean, it would work.
but would you talk about that if you're wearing somebody else's underwear? Like, ooh, that's
No, you mentioned that.
Who do you tell?
yeah.
So it brings me to a good segue that when we experienced that flash in the sky down in Virgil and we saw the shadow figures, we have talked about this before.
That's
there may
horrifying
have been
story.
time
Horrifying
loss
story.
during that.
yeah, but we
there's
weren't
no way
watching
to
the
reference.
time.
Yeah, there's no way to reference
The
that.
one
'cause
thing
we're-
that I had been thinking about doing is we should
Okay, it's got a red dot.
record ourselves
It's the
and have like a clock running, like a digital clock running
on camera.
when we're doing that sort of things.
Do you think, by chance, since you guys are active in that field of watching and all that, does that make you think possible targets?
Well, so there's the old saying that once you start looking for it,
You're gonna
Tendency to find it?
but I don't think that that's always true. I don't know if it makes it any more probable. I feel like I have more experiences because of what I do, but I would probably have experiences even if I didn't do this.
But are you more open because you do it versus...
Oh, that's
I don't know if it has to do with being
Well, I
open.
mean, like, you pay more
There's
attention to
different types of being open, right?
More
There's
open.
like there's
I am now.
I could be open in ways I don't even know. And somebody that's not in the paranormal field that doesn't believe in it, they could still be open in ways that they don't even know and have an experience. Whereas somebody that...
But not...
I've known a few people in this field that... most of them peter out because nothing happens to them, but there's hardcore investigators that just... they don't ever really experience anything. They're just interested in it. So I think I've mentioned on the show before that I think it all comes down to the individual. And I don't think it's just because I might have more experiences because I put myself in that situation more, but I think this stuff happens to me because of who I am. Whereas if somebody different might not experience the same things.
Well, I think also, maybe in some way, because you've done it so much, Jason, that you know what to look for. Or
well, knowledge
you're aware of
can
that,
put
right?
me in the right spot at the right time.
Absolutely.
Or to read the signs
Yeah.
of something.
Yeah. Because, I keep going back to the stick figure, but my first thing is, of course, I would never run out my camera either. I already told you my story on that, but I think
Or call your friends.
I would have
like,
been...
see things in the sky.
We weren't even doing a podcast then, so let's just get that out. We weren't doing a podcast then. But I would have had time anyway, JD. But my thing is like, Jason, you're a smart, you're an intellectual guy, and you've gone through so much. I just can't see you not hopping that fence and like, what the is this? Because I know we're not supposed to be talking about this, but you were not intimidated. You didn't have a fear of flight, fight or flight thing. You were just like taking it in, which I understand that.
Yeah, and I thought about it again after I told you guys about this, and I actually technically did have a camera in my hand because I had a tablet in my hand that had a camera on it, but I had never used that camera because why would I need to? And it just didn't cross my mind.
Well, it's bothered me for 3 weeks now.
And it happened to the point that even if I would have opened because I had already closed it because I was getting up to go back in. But even if I had opened it up and tried to get it fast enough, it would have.
Big gone by the time you try to get it.
But not if you were running after it.
You saw a professional cameraman on a TV show could not pick out something that somebody
100%.
pointed to. So,
That was standing still.
100%.
And we're laughing and making fun of some of this stuff, but
I'm not laughing. I am still in shock on this story, and here we are talking about abductions possibly and time losses. Who says it wasn't an alien?
We're not saying it wasn't.
We're not saying
No, I'm just saying. I'm just with all your experiences you guys have had. No rain hitting. There's a dome over it. That doesn't sound like a biological creature to me. That sounds like something else. my guy here is just an essential
we
investigator himself, and Jason, maybe I give you too much prop, but I think you're a highly intelligent person and you can break things down well. I think you're very well. When I look at our podcast that you're on, you talk really well. It's something outside.
I heard a door or something outside.
I sure hope that was.
When you're able to break things down on people's perception and stuff, and I'm just like, what
to be fair, the shadow in the hallway could have been.
Did you tell him what I saw last night?
No.
So after we had
He's trying to get seduced.
The live, JD was sitting on the couch and I was sitting over here. And out of the corner of my eye, like it jerked me. I looked and my mouth opened up. It freaked me out. I saw what looked like a leg step out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And step
from
back
here?
in. Yeah, from sitting here. Like I went like this. I went, and he's looking at me like, it's okay.
Yeah.
See, I always see translucent things in my house. I have to do a double take.
This was a physical. It was a physical leg.
Like a dark leg.
Like a dark leg.
That might match the shadow figure.
Yeah.
No, it was.
I didn't
physical.
see it, so I can't tell you. I just
It
saw
wasn't
his
a
look on his.
shadow. It was a physical, like.
But when because we were talking about as we recall the shadow on the wall, there should have been something in the hallway.
Yeah.
We should have seen something leaning out to cause that shadow because it leaned over to look at us. And it's like, well, then it took off down the hallway. Well, what if it was a gray that's checking on him? Because he's been visited before in the middle of the night, knocked stuff off his monitors.
Yep.
We don't know their
Yep.
technology.
Right. I agree. And that's what I thought that was. Or maybe some of their technology coming through like a
Damn
camera.
you! I forgot about that incident.
How can you forget that?
You're going to have wonderful,
But see, I
wonderful
don't-
dreams tonight.
And these are things I don't like asking Jason because I know what he's going to say to me. He's going to, well, it's possible.
That's
It's
probable.
I was like, God dang it, Jason, I don't want that for an answer.
This
give me
the hell
more.
out of Josh on
Give
the
me
podcast.
more.
This is. I don't give in to peer pressure.
So go ahead.
I was just saying, as we talk about this stuff, this is why we talk about it, is because there's other people out there that this may trigger something about, there was that time that I was driving and a flash of light, and then next thing you know, I'm 5 miles down the road or even 30 miles down the road.
That's real.
And people don't know how to really talk about it, because it may not be alien abduction. It may just be, but at least talk.
Yeah, but who do you talk to?
That's what these podcasts are about. I mean, it's not just ours. I mean, you did a podcast for a long time talking about stuff like this, cryptids of the corn, myth, monsters, and mullets,
Drunk Encrypted,
Darkwood Paranormal.
Which, by the way, his Fort Hood story's phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Just throwing out. Love
there
to
is,
that.
we already mentioned it in the show tonight. There is like the highway hypnosis stuff.
Yep.
But we were having a conversation. We weren't we weren't just staring at the
that whole
road.
series of events.
We
that's
were
very
engaged in the moment, not necessarily just watching the road.
So before we get into our topic for this episode,
5 hours
But
later.
we still don't have a conclusion on this. We do have from you, but Jason has not took
There's
the
not
bait.
going to be a conclusion.
boom, we're going to take a quick break to refill our drinks,
Check cameras.
check cameras,
Take
and
the
we'll
Coke
be
out of the freezer.
back
Already did.
after
Oh,
this select commercial from
Show me the spirits.
Showing with the Spirits. So, be back in just a second.
Dude, that's an awesome shirt. Where'd you get it?
Yeah, man. This is my favorite new podcast that I've been listening to, Chumming with the Spirits. They talk about paranormal, drink whiskey. It's pretty badass. You should check it out.
Where can I check them out at?
You can check them out on cwtspodcast.com. They actually have our shirts for sale. They've got really cool drinking gear. It's pretty awesome. If you like to drink and you like to talk about ghosts and Bigfoot and crap, I highly recommend checking them out.
Well, whoever did that logo is probably pretty cool.
Yeah. Go check them out. Alright, so welcome back to this beautiful episode of We
Chumming
Don't
with the
Even Know
Spirits?
What We're Talking About.
Well, we have an idea.
We do.
Yes.
We're talking about alien abductions. We ended off talking about lost time and some of the experiences that we've had and possibilities.
What's this wee stuff?
Yeah, we're
Kemosabe.
We were talking about honeymoons. Lost. Don't.
But it was a segue into.
I think you were talking about upside down pineapple.
Oh, I
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
That's what we called
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Well, the pineapple thing's got a connotation to it.
Yeah. I just realized that. I just realized that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, about that.
So, what story we wanted to talk about mainly was Fire in the Sky
Yes.
incident.
Okay.
So, for
It's a
people
book.
that
It's a movie.
may
it's
not
a
be
life
fully
story.
aware of what happened, JD, do you want to give kind of like a short rundown of the incident?
So, actually, I don't
Well,
know
you
the
was
state. So,
Because you don't know.
I seen the movie. I know
okay.
the guy.
The one
OG, kick us off.
The redheaded guy that still talks about it. I don't know his name though. If you said the name, I'd
D.B.
remember
Sweeney.
it.
That was the actor.
Yeah, I know.
So kick it off. Just do a high level, because I can't remember, they were logging, but I can't remember
Arizona.
There were 4 loggers,
where. In Arizona?
Arizona. I just looked it up.
and
Cheater.
they saw something. They went into the woods to figure out what it was, and they saw this light. And 3 of them were too scared to do anything. One wanted to get a closer look at it. And
Regretted
was his name Travis?
Travis Walton.
Thank you.
Walton.
So,
yeah, Walton.
so Jason's to be.
You're the
No,
one
I'll
who-
interject the real facts. You tell
Yeah.
the story.
So, I'm not sure how to take that, man. I don't think that
Hey,
was,
you-
I don't think that was a compliment
you
at
backed
all.
yourself into
I don't
this
know if that's
corner.
even a compliment. Because you always skip me, motherfucker.
It's because of this.
You're a cocksucker. That's all. I'm just gonna say that right now on our podcast.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
delete. And
Next thing you see is me going.
so
me out.
somehow how he got and he got abducted. The other guys freaked out. They took off in the truck and they ran home with did not look for their friend.
Like, this
they
motherfucker's on his own.
We're out. See you,
Well,
bud.
they keep
What you would
pulling
do?
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
leave me. Yeah.
Oh no, I wouldn't leave
The
you.
minute you're halfway up the way, we're gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's got his foot on the pedal, smoking the tires.
I think Larry would actually be frozen, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I would.
And mumbling. Frozen and mumbling.
Yeah, JD might take a couple shots at me. Oh fuck it, he's dead.
Yeah, dude. Try to put
Better off than what they're going to do to him.
Yeah. So they get to town and they go to the police station or make a phone call. Hey, our friend's dead or gone, and no one would believe them, and we can do the rest of the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, the key point on this, it was multiple people witnessed.
4, right?
Yes, 4 of them witnessed this guy getting lifted up by the light. He went into the beam because he couldn't really see what the light was
Coming from.
coming from. So, to me, and they all took polygraphs on it. I mean, a lot of people know there's
Twice.
twice, and none of them failed the polygraph. It's and he explained what he had saw at the time. It's an interesting. There's a movie on it with D.B. Sweeney. DB
And it really messed the guy up.
It's
man.
not
I
DB
mean,
Cooper.
I mean, this guy's to this day, this
Yeah,
Travis guy still talks about it.
He's making the conference rounds still.
Yep.
I mean, with that type of story, I mean, you can't blame him.
Maybe we'll make the Casey Paragon one.
Not this year.
He didn't put his ticket in soon enough.
But yeah, no, I mean the things that he reported happening to him during the abduction, because he was lucid during, well, I think like 75% of it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he was out for a little bit, and
Yeah.
then he came to.
In
And
the
then-
shell thing.
Yeah, and that. Yeah, if you have a chance to watch the movie, it's
That's what you call
called
it.
the movie's called Fire in the Sky.
Right.
There was a book before that. I believe he had written a book, had somebody write a book for him based off of his events, and then that's what actually got made into the movie.
Well, actually, horrific. I remember I was dating my wife when the movie came out.
Why was that horrific?
Just what he went through.
Not doing
what he went through, and it was just obviously. I mean, the guy will never be the same. But my wife, it made an impact on my wife, and it was just a movie. You know?
So I want to ask you, say it was you went through that experience. Any of you went through that experience. Would you want anything to have been different? Would you?
What do you
Are
mean?
you saying you don't want to remember it?
No. So you said it changed them for life.
Yeah.
Would you not want to have had that revelatory experience, knowing that now there's something out there? Or would you still say, I'm better
By
for
not
having
knowing?
had that experience?
I honestly,
That was-
yeah.
I'm not saying this right.
No, yeah. if what I'm picking up on you is
Picking up what you're laying down.
No, if I'm picking up what you are laying down,
You smell what I'm cooking?
yeah, and it's not appreciated. Saying that.
Keep it to yourself.
No, I would not want that to happen. I would not want to relive that. I would not want to remember any of that.
I'd be okay being the guy watching the other guy get going up.
Yeah, you're fucking sick that way. you are sick that way.
Bring Dave back. Come on.
So I guess
Use the other one. Use the other tool. Yeah.
I guess where I'm trying to get at is this happened to you. You have 3 witnesses seeing you being taken away.
Yeah.
But you don't remember any of it, and these people are trying to be like, "Hey, this."
Well, no, he remembers parts of it.
No. What I'm saying is, would you rather those people just kept their mouth fucking shut if you didn't remember, or would you still want to try to? I don't know where I'm going.
I think it depends on the scenario. What that guy's going through, right?
Do you want your friends to go back and report you missing, or missing by alien abduction?
I think where I'm going is that if something that profound happens to me, even if it's horrific,
There were 6
whatnot,
members.
Oh shit!
I would want
5
to
people watched
know,
them?
and if I didn't know, I would seek out answers. I wouldn't just be like, I'm just fucking.
Because they dropped him off like on the edge of fucking town.
They watched him walk into the woods towards the light, but at least in the initial reporting, they didn't say they saw him floating towards the light in the initial reporting. So they left and came back 15 minutes later, and he wasn't there.
That's some coworkers right there. They weren't friends. That's coworkers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You
Not
should
even
go
the
check.
ones you like.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, you should go check that light out. We're out.
Oh, yeah, he's gone. Let's go. Yeah, who does that to somebody?
Coworkers.
Okay.
Now you know.
So no, I'm just. Even if I didn't remember the actual occurrence, but I knew something happened,
Yeah.
I would want to know. I would be to the day I died. I would be seeking out answers,
Dude,
and not just being like, I'm just.
We kind of
gonna
made
ignore it.
mine a little bit of joke. He's making the rounds. I would expect him to make rounds till he passes away.
Well,
That is
I
something.
think he probably will. Right?
Yeah, because that is something that there's no real good explanation to.
But where I'm going is, there's people out there that would just be like, I'm just never going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like we talked about.
I think it's one of those things. If the can gets open because his friends reported it, had they not reported him being gone, maybe they would not have said anything, and maybe we'd never heard about the story. Versus that they did report him being missing once they went back and saw him, and that kicked everything up. Then he shows up out of the blue at the edge of town.
Didn't people think that maybe they killed him or
Yeah,
something?
They were suspected of murder.
They're like, these guys are making up this, this story. What the hell? And
Well, there were people that knew they were out there that weren't there. That knew the crew was out there and they were all together. So they would have noticed
one guy not being
being there.
You hope they would notice.
I guess. He was gone 6 days.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about what he went through. Would I want to remember that? I'm thinking,
I was kind
not.
of getting to that. Like, if I had known something happened, but I didn't remember any of the details, my curiosity would want to know those details, just because of who I am.
Yeah, maybe. But I think you're.
Unless my butt hurt.
I think you're, and it does anyway.
Well, then you would already know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I mean, you have people you can talk to about stuff like the paranormal, if you will. They didn't have that back then, right? There wasn't a lot of people you could go and talk to about
Did it
that.
say what year that actually happened? Was it 70 something?
Well, he has people to talk to, right? But just imagine the scenario for a moment. You're sitting in your basement with all your Kiss stuff. And the other people, we had all gone out into the woods, right? Not all of us. He shows up and says, "I went out to the woods with 5 other dudes that came back, and 6 days later, my ass hurts." Are you gonna take him serious in the moment?
No, we're gonna look at it and say we knew it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
But throughout human history, even though you don't have someone close to you to talk to, there are individuals that you can seek out to get advice that will not judge.
Yeah.
They're called therapists.
Yeah. Dream regression, past.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, but like you said,
shamans.
That's if you want to know what happened.
Yeah. Or do you just want to bury it, leave it in the
You
woods?
say that you would want to know what happened, but in the situation, you might be like, I don't want to know what happened.
Because the reason why his is kind of messed up is A, he had witnesses, B, it was 6 days missing, which is not common. Usually, I mean, you get that time loss where you don't know how long you're gone, but it's a short time frame. 6 days gone.
One more than 5, one less than 7.
And
Gee, good math.
now, am I right? He did remember some of the things that happened. To
Yeah,
him.
no, he woke up on some of it. I don't think he realized he'd been gone for 6 days.
Right.
Yeah, he woke up in a cocoon,
He kind of pulled himself out.
pulled himself out, and was like,
Which,
and then started having reminiscent.
And how did he
visions.
get back? I mean, how did he get off the ship?
They ended up, all he could figure out was like he was like dropped, and it was
Yeah.
outside of town. Like he ended up going to like a payphone, right, and calling.
So he doesn't remember that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Okay. All
But
right.
he was covered in like bruises and cuts, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Well, because he might have been wandering around in the woods, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's
maybe.
what I would have thought.
I mean, the whole thing could have been hallucinogenic.
Could have been he wanted to get away from his girl for a little while
Yeah, who knows?
and told his buddies,
I'm going to the light.
I'll give you $20 each to tell a story. But that doesn't quite hold up because they did involve the police
Yep.
and did a
Polygraphs.
whole search with
Yeah,
them.
and they also did polygraphs on everybody that was involved.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't they find remnants of radiation in the surrounding area?
I have no idea.
I'd
I'm
have
not
to go
sure
back
that-
through the
yeah.
files on that.
What about him? Did he have any like radiation burns on his body?
Yeah, I mean, he was covered in like bruises and cuts and all sorts of stuff.
That could have been just being in the woods, went around,
Naked.
aimlessly.
But you could say the same thing about radiation burns. He was just it's sunburn, right?
Well, they could be blistering in
Yeah.
certain areas, not just the whole body, or
Maybe that
some-
was the only part of his skin that was exposed. to
And
the
I don't
sun.
know. I'm asking. I don't know if he had that on him or not. So
But it's probably the biggest, to me, since it made it into a movie, the biggest documentation of, and most witnesses. Because there's another one that's talked about more. That's a couple,
Betty and Barney Hill.
yeah,
but there was no other witnesses. This one, they saw him walk into the woods towards a light, evidently left, came back to go try to find him, and he was gone.
Came back
And he
to
was
get
gone.
him.
He was gone
He
for
was
6
not around.
days.
so they didn't. They never actually saw him get beamed up or anything.
Well,
like
so what I read was the initial story, what they told the police. That doesn't mean that they didn't actually see it, because
Like,
they
how
could
much are
have
you
told
gonna
the
say?
police, "Oh, well, we saw them walking in. We saw him walking into the woods towards this light." That's a lot easier to tell some police officers than we saw him lift off the ground.
Okay, well, let me ask you: does anybody know if the witnesses that saw this, are any of those guys making the rounds and talking about?
I don't
what
think
they
they still make the rounds,
They
but
did
I
for a
believe
little
that
bit.
they were at least interviewed for several TV shows and stuff.
Is that
At least, maybe not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, when the movie got released, they were doing media press junkets for a little bit, but I don't think I've ever heard of them being at the cons. He's been at multiple paranormal cons, telling his story and that. Which, I mean, like I said, if that happened to me, I'd definitely be trying to warn everybody.
So, what's your take on it? Do you think it's real, or do you think it's a BS story?
No, I think it happened.
I think it's one of those. They didn't have a camera, but they had, evidently 5 other people corroborate that he went missing.
That says a lot, though.
Yeah.
Right? In my opinion, that says a lot.
And I think some of it also with the interviews and that they've had. I mean, there's some trauma that happened to him,
So
definitely.
this
Yeah,
says that while some of Travis Walton's incident witnesses have expressed doubt or changed their stories, it's not a consensus that the incident was a hoax. However, Mike Rogers did renounce his status as a witness. He said he didn't actually witness it in 2021 online.
Government.
So he didn't see the and with all the
Or he
information.
didn't see what he claimed to see, whichever. Maybe he was facing the other direction, not paying attention. Or I don't know what that means.
yeah.
It just says that he did not actually witness what the other guys said they witnessed.
What do you think?
I think he experienced something. I mean,
You think it was an abduction?
I hate this having to come up with
Put it in a box, man.
finalities.
Put it in a box first.
Because-
Where's the box?
First off, I wasn't there. I didn't experience it.
I understand.
I can't have
The information you know.
the information I know. I would say, like Jason would say, is anything as possible.
I hate that fucking answer.
I'll add a little bit on top of that. So, alien abduction cases, for the most part, for the large part, are stories of being taken from your room, being by yourself. This is an outlier, even though, and it's because of the movie. The idea that somebody that doesn't pay attention to alien abduction stories has in their head is they're beamed up in a beam of light and taken, Star Trek added to that and all kinds of stuff added to that. But it's not the norm to be beamed up in light
I
and
would
taken
agree with that.
aboard a craft. He's not the only one. That's not the only instance, but majority of them, people are alone in their bedroom or in their house,
And they're escorted out.
and they're taken, or they don't even remember the moment. They just wake up. This one, even though it's the most famous, is really a big outlier when it comes
Yeah, it
to the
doesn't
normal
follow the
story of
norms,
alien
yeah.
abduction.
Maybe they were trying to pick a Bigfoot, and he just walked into the light. I was like, God damn it! Look what we
Yeah,
did.
maybe he
That's not Bigfoot.
Yeah, there's not enough hair. Maybe just double check him.
What the hell? The hair color's right.
Yeah.
So another one I wanted to kind of talk about and get your guys' opinions on. I don't know much about the actual stories that the movie was based on, but I've heard that a lot of liberties were taken with the movie, The Fourth Kind.
Close Encounter.
Yeah, there
No,
was
Absolutely
a lot
love that movie. Absolutely love
With
that
the
movie.
owls
Close
in
Encounters of
Alaska.
the Third
Yeah,
Kind is
I
what
love
you
that.
were thinking.
Yeah, it's the one after.
It's
right?
a fantastically done movie. It's a fake story. It's not real.
Yeah.
But
So it's based on real stories.
it is for that area because there's so many abductions in the area. Or
So the thing
sightings.
is Nome, Alaska, it doesn't have a road going to it. People there was a period in time where there was abundance of disappearances. And it's easy for people to say, oh, well, you're out there in the middle of nowhere, so people wander off and they die. It's not that couldn't happen.
Polar bears.
It is not at all depicted. Nome, Alaska is, the topography of it is not anything like it's depicted in that movie.
No.
There's not a single tree in sight. It's just barren, open, grass, desert land next to the ocean. So it's got this little town with nothing around it. You can see from one end of the town to the other, and you can see the whole town. So somebody just getting lost and wandering off into the wilderness, they're going to, most of
a mile
them
and a
know
half.
what they're doing living up there. And yeah, there's half of the year where it's just covered in ice and snow. But there was a whole section of cases where an abnormal amount of people disappeared from that town, that they sent an FBI agent up there to research it. I haven't actually seen the full movie, but I know that there are aspects in that movie that don't mirror the town. For one, like the trees and the woods and all that, and two, even though it is a thing in alien abduction stories, there's no owls
Yep.
in Nome, Alaska, which is a big component of the movie. Even so, they just took a bunch of aspects from alien abduction stories and threw it into the one movie that was based on real disappearances that are anomalous. It doesn't mean it's not a great movie. It doesn't mean that some of the things aren't right when it comes to alien abductions.
They just don't make sense.
But the stories don't really line up for each other. They took the story of people disappearing, that people thought people were abducted by aliens because they were anomalous disappearances, and put all the rest of the alien abduction lore on top of it.
I would agree.
And nobody wants to look other than when it was 30 Days of Night in that movie, nobody wants to look at a big, open, desolate town as your backdrop for a story. So they added trees in the forest.
Well, that's not enticing, right?
And that's a fantastic concept for a movie, by the way.
Absolutely. You don't.
The vampires coming to Alaska.
Yeah, it was great.
Constant, yeah.
Yes, it was great.
So,
I was thinking about the fourth kind because my wife was not the same because she thought it was real. She thought the recordings was real. My son Brandon, at a younger age, he went in his room and took his bed and moved it away from the window.
Oh well.
You know?
There were interviews and stuff done, but not. I've seen enough of the clips of that movie, not as they portrayed it, and they even, that you can say based on true stories, or true,
Well, how about reports?
Whatever, all you want. But that was kind of set up in a way to be a found footage-esque film.
Yeah.
It was.
So
It's great. It was absolutely great. I thought it was done very well.
So, everybody, to wrap this up, we wanted to kind of let us know what your thoughts on alien abductions are. Do you think they are hallucinations? Do you think people are actually witnessing and experiencing these things?
Do you have your own?
sorry,
Well-
I didn't mean to cut you off. We could wrap it up quickly. We don't have to go into super detail.
I would
Betty,
like-
Barney Hill
Yeah, let's do
were
it.
abducted while they were in their vehicle by themselves. And we started this whole episode off talking about we were in a vehicle with missing time.
Yeah.
So they were in upstate New York.
There's actually a good documentary that James
Yeah.
Earl Jones narrates.
And they were
from the
abducted from the
70s.
car.
Yeah.
Or the car might have
I
been with
love
them.
I love how you brought that all the way around. And before we close it,
You like around, don't you?
yeah, well,
I can even tie it to the last episode I was on. So remember that I talked about
It's just all food
the.
and
I talked about. Well, maybe it wasn't the last episode chronologically, but it was one of the last episodes
Oh,
we talked
yeah.
about. I talked about Aleister Crowley being close to Loch Ness.
Yep.
He also had a place in upstate New York, just down the road from where Betty and Barney Hill were abducted a few years before they were abducted. So maybe he opened up something there as well, and that kicked off that abduction.
I guess an answer.
Maybe.
Speaking of which,
Possible.
I just have to point this out that until we talked about that, OG didn't know that Aleister Crowley was a real person.
That was fictional.
And a demon.
Oh, well, yeah, I watched Supernatural. And so before we close it out, so I'm gonna do a little poll here.
Okay.
A pool?
A poll.
Just don't yank.
Poll?
Not a sex poll. I don't know what I meant, a stripper poll. Aliens real?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They visit
I mean-
here.
Is it yes or no poll? Or
Okay.
explanation?
Explanation.
Poll?
Okay.
Give me why you think it is. Are they real and why?
I would have to say, yes, I think they're real. Yes, I think they've been here and are possibly here now. When you look at it on a scientific level with the universe, the amount of stars that we can visibly see
Yeah, that's I love this. Go ahead.
is in the trillions. And when you think, what is a star?
Yeah, it's a sun.
It's a sun.
Yeah.
Each one of those suns has an unprecedented amount of celestial bodies rotating around them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The stars that we see, trillions of them, are just in our galaxy.
Yeah. No, you're right.
There's an equation for this.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the equation.
Probability.
The
Well, there was named
probability
after a
that
person.
we're the only things in this universe, if you truly believe that, I hate to say this, but
You're a moron.
not a moron, you're just oblivious.
Yeah.
You need to go back and leak.
I think oblivious is
math.
good.
And not in a mean way, but open your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Open your eyes.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
That's my opinion.
No, I love where you went there, JD.
Well, I'm gonna
Skip
go.
Jason, I see how it is.
I'm gonna go the opposite
I'm done,
route.
Jason.
I'm not
I'm
gonna
done.
go with scientific. I'm gonna go from a very old book talks about angels were made not of this earth. So if they're not of this earth, they're alien.
Okay.
So is God. He created Earth. So we have biblical records of something that was not
Of
born
celestial
of this,
beings. Okay.
which means that by definition they are alien. They're extraterrestrial. They're
Okay.
not from of Earth. So that by itself means that there's at least one type. And then if you get into all the divinations of different types of angels,
And you also got the great green Ockelsneezer.
yeah. On the Gurgle or whatever we were talking about that one time. I'm just saying.
St.
just
Joel
from
Sam made my wife laugh, by the way.
You know where that's from, the great green Ockelsneezer?
No.
The number 42?
Oh,
Well,
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
yeah.
I haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
My
You
my
need to
wife
read-
did get a big kick out of St. Joel Sam. She's laughing her ass off.
Yeah, read the book.
The book's
Hitchhikers.
way
But
better.
to me, from a just biblical standpoint, that it's all laid
I
out
love
that
it.
there's other things.
Okay. Well, all right. Mother probable possible dude.
So I will approach the answer I have in a way that
Makes us look like
no, well, no. How I look at things.
Anything's possible.
Anything's probable.
Mother.
I think that the idea that there are people being abducted by something is a lot more probable than a being from another planet coming here and doing it. I don't think that's improbable. I think that could happen. But I think when it comes to statistically of what is doing it, it's something that either doesn't have to travel that space, or something that was already here, or something that is not bound to a planet like we are.
That's fair.
So when I think about aliens, I don't think of it in this like. Of course, I think that there could be creatures like us, or even more advanced than us, on another planet somewhere. And I think they could come here, but I think it's a little more probable that most of the experiences of people being abducted is something else than a traditional alien coming from another planet and taking that person.
So you're saying more metaphysical than scientifical?
Either that or something that was already here or been here for a long time. And that doesn't rule out that they didn't originally come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I just don't... Either they've been here for a long time and have a presence here longer than humans. I don't see the idea of a single craft traversing the galaxy, coming here and abducting somebody and taking them back wherever.
So
Even if they have the technology to do it very fast.
So you would say it's more probable that it could possibly be us in the far future, like trying to find a cure for something.
So I could bring up the idea of something controversial that I actually talked to somebody today about.
Do it.
To kind of round out the night. So I was listening to a Bigfoot Collectors Club today, who's going to be at KC Paracon. They were interviewing Joshua Cutchin, who's also going to be at KC Paracon.
Excellent.
And at one point during the conversation, they brought up that since 2020, people aren't being abducted like they used to be. The reports of them are down. Like, it's just not happening like it used to.
COVID?
It's not as fun when you know when they know you're doing it.
Well, no, it's because we've been tainted.
Well, so
With the
that's the
vaccine.
thought. So I was asking Joshua about that I have heard, and I've heard these reports, and they've been like they pop up online and then they disappear, and I don't want to get into debate about vaccine or not, but there have been reports of abductees that were long-time abductees that as soon as they took the COVID vaccine, the abductions stopped. And Joshua brought up that he had a friend that he had night terrors that were similar to abduction kind of stories, and he got MS and they stopped. So there's some argument, and it could be so. This there's the theory is a lot of the abductions are done by a future race of us, that even maybe the Greys are future us, and they've come back in time to try to take people to study the DNA of them to fix something they did to themselves as a race that made it so that they couldn't procreate and they became what they came. And we may have accidentally fucked ourselves up by doing an experimental vaccine that messed with our DNA, and they had no reason to take us anymore. That's just a theory and a thought, but they are down. Alien abductions are lowest point they've been since they first started being reported. And nobody really knows why, but I don't see... I could see that as strong as an argument as any other reason.
That was also a plot point on X-Files.
Was it? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they also made a semi-dystopian movie with Clive... Clive Owens, called Children of Men.
Yep.
Oh, sure.
Good movie.
Where we couldn't procreate.
Right.
Well, World War Z was based off of that. And,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Legends, I Am Legend is based off the same thing. That we did a vaccine that was supposed to help and ended up killing off a huge portion.
Yeah, I just have to say that was a great movie. No offense to that movie. It was a great movie. But it was a complete opposite 180. The book was written in the perspective of the creatures, and he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
So
he was the legend.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, I thought the book was better.
So,
but to wrap it all back up.
My final conclusion is, I agree with a lot you're saying. I love what you're saying. Your shit's too fucking deep for me. I look at the government conspiracies that we've known, and we've made deals with these guys, and that know that we're going to lose people and all that kind of stuff, so that they are in our government part of it, and they're walking among us. So, saying that, I would say, fuck yeah, man. We're real.
We recently, this week, had a conspiracy overturned.
Which one was that?
That there's no longer ever going to be another pope.
No, so it was bad at math.
It's wrong.
Someone missed the calculations.
It was wrong.
By one.
This pope, there's story...
Damn it.
Stories all out today.
Leon.
Whatever I read originally when I was doing that research into the idea, they must have had one number wrong. It's this pope that is supposed to be the last pope.
We shall see. He looks like he has a good 15 years in him.
Yeah, he's 69 from Chicago.
He's American, and we know
we don't eat well Americans. Especially if you're from Chicago. The Bears. Okay.
So, if you've had an alien abduction story, or you have a theory on...
Or have you been abducted?
That's what I just said.
Yeah. Call us. I think you're looking for someone to put on your Paracon.
I may have just found them, but still reach out.
Okay.
So, until next time.
Be safe.